There was nothing.
Hey y'all, welcome to book club. We are chapter 5 of building a story brand, and I'm excited to share with y'all about problems. So last week we talked about our character, and this week we're going to talk about all the problems they have. So our goal, right, is to not just share about Plexus, but to get people engaged in what we're talking about in our stories that we're sharing, but not just to engage like on social media, but to actually go from reading and being curious to purchasing. That is the goal, is to move them to a buying decision, right? So the way that we do that is to talk about their problems. So I'm going to share my screen with y'all. Let's see if we can get this to work. Why is it on number 4 again? Hold on. Okay, so how do we increase interest in our brand? We talk about the problems our customers are facing. When we do this, it makes people feel like we know them, right? Like we get what they're going through, and there's just a connection that happens when you feel those kind of things. So think about commercials that you've seen or heard on the radio, or those Instagram ads that I know get y'all, like they get me. That happens when we connect with a brand because we feel like they just get us, right? And the more we talk about people's problems, the more they see themselves in the stories that we're telling, the more likely they are to engage. They're gonna want to know more. So let's get through this. Let's see if I can. Okay, here we go. So Plexus makes this kind of easy for us because we're the health and happiness company, and we have solutions to most problems that most people are facing. So our job as a brand ambassador is to identify the problems of our audience and then guide them through a story so they can picture themselves as the hero of that story, where Plexus is there to solve their problems. Okay. So how do we do that? First, we identify the villain. Now, there's 4 things to remember about a villain. There should be a root source. So not the actual problem, but what is the root of the problem? So in the book, they gave the example of not being frustrated, but being frustrated because you have to pay taxes. That would be a root of a problem. It should be relatable. So it should be immediately recognizable as something that your reader does not like, something that gives them not happy feelings. Okay. And it should be singular. One villain per story is enough. If you have more than that, it can make your story kind of fuzzy or lose its focus. So 1 is definitely the magical number there. And then it should be real. So we want to stick to actual villains, not theoretical or metaphorical villains. Okay, villain. Necessary in every story. It should have personified characteristics, and our products and opportunity are the weapons that will be used to defeat this villain. So these are a couple that I came up with, and these pictures just kind of made me laugh. I mean, not all of them, but that last one. So mediocrity to me is a villain, survival mode, and then just settling in life. Those are villains to me that we can take and give personified characteristics. The Mombi there, I think, is a great example of a personified characteristic. Okay, so what we have to ask ourselves is, what is the chief source of conflict that our products and opportunity defeat? So essentially, when it, like, grand scheme of things, it's always going to be the opposite of health and happiness. That is what our opportunity and our products defeat, anything that is anti-health and happiness. And the more we can talk about this villain, the more people are going to want a tool to help them defeat it. Okay, so there are 3 levels of problems heroes face. The pictures on this slide are not problem pictures, but they're pretty and fun, and I thought We needed that when we're talking about problems, because all these people got problems solved. So there are 3 levels of problems that heroes face, and customers are hoping to solve these problems when they purchase a product. So there are external problems, which are physical and tangible. This is what we must overcome to save the day, right? There are internal problems, which are basically the backstory or frustration of that external problem. Almost always, this internal problem comes back to, do I have what it takes? It creates a sense of self-doubt, frustration, incompetence, confusion. And these things, these feelings are what makes stories relatable. In the book, he mentioned that it's what makes, I don't know exactly what he used, but where a truck driver can relate to a romantic comedy, or a soccer mama can relate to, I don't know, an Avengers movie, because there is a feel in there, a sense of doubt or frustration or something like that, that we can all relate to on some level. And then there's a philosophical problem. So this is where it gets real deep and just becomes more about, what does this matter in the grand scheme of the world, right? So this, I like this right here where he said it is talked best about in terms of ought and shouldn't. And that helped me a lot. So when I was figuring out some scenarios, I would use that and say, well, we'll show you. I'll show you what we did. Hold on one second. We'll keep going. Okay, so Brittany did this post today, and it was fantastic. And it is a perfect example of using this model to show, to connect with your audience about their problems. So I'm not going to read this to y'all, but take just a minute, read through this, and then we're going to see if we can identify the problems here in this post. So I'm going to give you just a minute of awkward silence to read this post.
Should you cue Jeopardy music or something?
I mean, I got some tunes. You want some tunes? Okay, music and everything. Okay, so hope y'all had time to read through that. So let's look at what the problems were in this post. Oh, not too many. Okay, so the villain in this post was the imbalanced microbiome, right? Which is the opposite of health. The external problems were the cycle of bad choices that she kept making over and over, because not because she wasn't self-disciplined, but because of this villain, right? And then the internal goes to this frustration of, why can't I control this? Why can't I make better choices? Why can't I do better? It's the backstory of that cycle of bad choices. And then the philosophical problem would be, healthy choices shouldn't be this hard. See how it went back to that ought or shouldn't? It just shouldn't be this hard. Okay, so next we want to involve people in a larger story than themselves and give them kind of a deeper sense of meaning. And I like this line where he said, true satisfaction is found when customers find answer to external, internal, and philosophical problems. And then those little examples there on the side from the book, I just loved. And so they kind of are how I live my life. So they spoke to me. But a question that we can always ask is, what bigger story can we involve our audience in? So like for these examples, it was summer and creating memories, and being with their families and stuff like that. And then the No Music, No Life was getting people to buy into their record company, basically. So I thought those were great examples, but that's a great question that we can ask ourselves, and we'll talk about that more on discussion. So if we want our businesses to grow, we should position our products as the resolution to an external, internal, and philosophical problem, and frame the buy now button as the action a customer must take to create closure in their story. So basically what that means in a nutshell is our audience is going to engage when we hit all three levels of their problems, right? And that buy now button, that is basically our call to action that we do at the end of a post, or us showing up in their inbox and asking, are you open to hearing more, or are you ready to purchase, that kind of thing. And they're going to do that when we've engaged with all three of those levels of their problems, because at that point they just feel like we get them, right? We've connected with them. We understand what they're going through. And we have a tool that's going to solve these problems for them. So that's what people make them make a purchasing decision. So all said and done, stories should be simple and clear. And there are always 4 questions that we can ask. Number 1, what villain does my brand stand against? And every story that you share can have a little variation of a villain. You don't have to have the same villain all the time. So each post you do can have a different villain. Number 2, what external problem is the villain causing? 3, how is that external problem making my customers feel? And 4, why is it unjust for people to have to suffer at the hands of this villain? So if you write a post and you can answer each one of these questions, you've done your job well of providing these problems in your post and using Plexus as a tool to solve them. So if you do that and you do it well and you do it on repeat, you should have customers engaging and moving from watchers to purchasers. So that is all I have. Let me stop my screen share and we'll stop recording.